Welcome to episode 2 of our book club, where we take Dr. Moshe Feldenkrais' book Awareness Through Movement, and we are actually starting somewhere in the middle where the practical application begins with a chapter, What is Good Posture? Thanks so much for your feedback, for the positive comments. Seems like it's a good idea. I'm super interested in your comments of all sorts, what you agree with, what you disagree, and even things that relate to posture, to the topic that we're discussing, but not necessarily have to be precisely the things that we're talking about. So what did we learn so far? So far we learned that he contested the idea of straightness, that even within the spine, there's only 2 or 3 bones that are actually straight. So therefore he challenges that we don't know what we're talking about when we are telling people to sit up straight. Now, I would argue, and this is where I welcome comments in the section below, in the comments section below, where we could discuss, since people, you and I, kind of understand what straight is, what straight posture, when we look at somebody's posture and we say, oh, this person is standing straight. Even though Dr. Feldenkrais would challenge it that person's spine is not straight. What is straight in our eye that is so pleasing that we will value this as this is a nice posture? What do you look at? What part of person's body that is straight? Do you look at a straight line between the back of the head and their back or buttocks? What do you think? There must be some reason why we say straight when we want to describe good posture. Even though Dr. Feldenkrais contests it as a imprecise use of language. So what do you think? What do you think is what's straight? Maybe it's the angle of the shoulder blades lying on our back that could be straight, vertical, that is so pleasing. What do you think? Another thing, what else did we learn? We learned that by straight, people usually think vertical, upright, vertical. And we also learned that Dr. Feldenkrais challenged the idea of looking at posture only from aesthetical point of view. And it's interesting. I thought about this for a while, and I thought, if we were living without eyes, if universe never produced light and eyes never formed, if we all lived and functioned without eyes, with no sight, would we still talk about posture? Think a moment. Would we think posture without eyes, without vision, without how it looks like? For sure, we should have some room for something posture-like, or maybe definitely how Dr. Feldenkrais thought about posture, that bypasses how it looks. So that's an interesting concept, right? Would we think of posture without envisioning, without having the visual? Then I would twist it again. Okay, he challenges aesthetics. He makes it less important. But I thought about some people who rely in their making a living through professions like acting or being a model, where how you look is not a trivial thing. Could that be taken into consideration? We like to look nice, right? We like to look good, and our posture has something to do with it. So it's not completely trivial. Can you share with me, what do you think looks good? What looks good? What makes us look good? What is that thing that we are seeking for when wanting to look better by having good posture? Maybe we could invert it and contemplate for a moment what looks bad. What is it in person's posture that may look less appealing? What looks bad? What do you not like about your posture? when I look in the mirror or somebody catches my photograph and I look at it and I'm like, oof, I did not like the way I looked. What is it? What is it that we don't like in our posture? So the concept of aesthetics is challenged here by Dr. Feldenkrais, but we could counter-challenge that. It's not trivial. How we look matters. How we look matters for our future partners and loved ones, who falls in love with us, who we fall in love with. Success in many professions is very much anchored to person's presence and appearance. So maybe it's not completely trivial. Although I agree that he has a point, that there is something more to it. Let's read the next paragraph. Originally I thought I would read 3 paragraphs, but this is a super example of his writing. You will read this one simple paragraph and you find that that's it. We should stop there. We should give ourselves time to contemplate, to think of what he meant, and maybe have the discussion among each other, so we can increase our pool of knowledge, helping each other and contributing to furthering our knowledge and understanding. So let's take a read. This paragraph is called Skeleton, Muscles, and Gravity. It follows that any posture is acceptable in itself as long as it does not conflict with the law of nature, which is that the skeletal structure should counteract the pull of gravity, leaving the muscles free for movement. The nervous system and the frame develop together under the influence of gravity in such a way that the skeleton would hold up the body without expending energy despite the pull of gravity. If, on the other hand, the muscles have to carry out the job of the skeleton, not only do they use energy needlessly, but they are then prevented from carrying out their main function of changing the position of the body, that is, of movement. In poor posture, the muscles are doing a part of the job of the bones. In order to correct posture, it is important to discover what has distorted the reaction of the nervous system to gravity, to which every part of the whole system has had to adjust as long as man has existed. In order to arrive at any practical understanding of this problem, we will have to examine and clarify the concepts used above. Let us first see what is the correct response of the system to gravity. Super important paragraph, and you can see how if you just rush through and move on to the next and move on to the next, you don't give enough time to process. So what does he say here that are really gems? To me, the recognition that posture has something to do with universal laws of nature, namely physics. Response to gravity. Our posture as a manifestation or way of managing gravity. I think it was Dr. Roger W. Sperry, in 1981 Nobel laureate in physiology, who had a quote of saying that better than 90% of brain's output is directed toward maintaining your body in gravitational field. Therefore, the less energy one spends on one's posture, the more energy is available for healing, digestion, and thinking. That was the quote from Dr. Sperry. So as we can imagine, it's quite a lot that our brain has to do to manage gravity. And in some way, when patients often come to me and they want to know what's wrong with them. why they are struggling. People look for diagnosis to have a better understanding and hope for healing. Now, the thing that I find more and more as a universal answer for why people have herniated discs, arthritis sets in the joints, we tear things, we rupture things, we pull things of tissues, is actually that if somebody wanted real honest answer what the problem is, I would say it's the management of gravity. How your nervous system manages gravity is the reason why the herniated disc happens in the first place. And of course, this is kind of vague. I don't think we are ready for answers like this, and they may feel too vague. But the truth is, a lot of our troubles, a lot of our arrested healing is from faults in management of gravity. So the tissue is all the time strained, so the tissue doesn't have a chance to heal, or that healing is interrupted by many re-aggravations, re-injuries, micro pulls, micro strains that challenge the healing process. So real honest, we should have a diagnosis like gravity management disorder or something like that. How we manage gravity decides on the course of our whole life, of healing, how well we heal, how well we move, what kind of sports achievements we have, how well we perform our professions, carry ourselves, how we walk, how we stand, how you brush your teeth, is a form of managing gravity. And it's happening 24/7. Of course, when we lie down, we are in a horizontal position where our whole body is supported by the bed or mat or floor or whatnot. And then there is no falling from it. You are close to the supportive surfaces. Therefore, you can completely let go and you are not going to fall. If you imagine lying on the back, on your bed, or lying on your side or any position, you're practically already lying, so therefore there is no falling from it. Your nervous system does not have to manage gravity that much. I could argue with myself, if you're lying on the side, let's say you're lying on the side with legs long, you still will feel that you need to manage gravity. Your belly muscles, abdominals, back muscles, shoulder muscles, neck muscles will be contracting to not let you fall back or let you fall forward, right? So you could be lying and still actively managing gravity. But if you lie on your back, very little of gravity management is needed. But if we come to upright position, then becomes an ongoing activity. In the third law of Newtonian laws of movement, of motion, we know about action-reaction, right? When there is a force applied to an object, the object apply force right back with an equal and opposite magnitude. So we know that. As I'm sitting here, as you're sitting right now, your center of mass is being pulled toward the center of earth, downward, through your chair, through your, if you're standing, through your feet. Your bones apply pressure into supportive surfaces, call it floor or chair, and the chair is pushing right back up into your seat bones, through your pelvis, into your spine, into your structures, into your skull. So what it means, canceling gravity, it means gravity is pushing straight down into the floor, and the floor pushes straight up in equal and opposite direction. And if the bones, if the skeleton is properly aligned, it cancels gravity. It's basically like this. If you have a column that is supported by, whoops, this one is canceling gravity right now. Even though my hand wobbles, it's still not falling. Basically, it's canceling gravity. Now, in our situation, it's more complicated because you have bone on top of the bone. So now to do that, whoa, that's a super challenging task, right? But that's what our skeleton does. It has this kind of circus master spinning plates on the top of bamboo sticks. That's what happens in our body. So this idea of properly organized skeleton is canceling gravity. He mentions in this paragraph also then when it's done properly, muscles are free. You don't have to apply force to hold that structure, that pillar, that Greek column that can stand for thousands of years. It doesn't need external support when it's leaning properly. If you have a structure like Tower of Pisa that is falling, they have to apply modern technology. There are special iron, metal ropes that hold the bottom of the Tower of Pisa so it doesn't collapse altogether, right? So those ropes that hold, strong ropes that hold Tower of Pisa from falling, is kind of similar to our muscles. For example, if my head tends to fall to the side, you can imagine center of mass of my head being to the right of the base of support. Therefore, for me to carry myself like this, I cannot do it only through my bones. You could maybe see the muscles here on the left side of my neck. You don't see, but I can feel them, muscles on the left rib cage and abdomen holding me like Tower of Pisa. So I'm not falling. Thank God that I have muscles. But the problem is now that these muscles on the left side are now engaged in an ongoing contraction. And therefore, they're less available for what they could do normally. When you need to turn your head or do whatever you need to do, juggle balls, push, throw, do your sports or everyday movement, suddenly these muscles have two tasks to deal with. One is this ongoing holding, and the second is the intended movement. That intended movement will be compromised. The quality of this, it may become jerky, there may be some jumpy at the moment when there is a conflict between that muscle needing to relax, but it cannot relax because it's still holding. Then you have this cogwheel kind of quality of movement, or the movement gets done through plowing through with too much effort rather than with a beautiful flow and smoothness and gracefulness. So this little paragraph has the second notion. The muscles need to be free, ideally, so they can do whatever they need to do, and they're free from the job of the skeleton. Now here also in this paragraph, he talks about what we need to do in order to have success in improving our posture. It's still a little bit vague, but he gives a glimpse. So he says, in order to correct posture, it's important to discover what has distorted the reaction of the nervous system to gravity in the first place. Yeah, it's convoluted because the way he writes it, in order to correct posture, it is important to discover what has distorted the reaction of the nervous system to gravity, to which every part of the whole system has had to adjust as long as man has existed. Very complex. So forever, since I was born, or maybe even before, my system had to deal with gravity. And for me to improve my posture, I have to learn what distorted my way the brain and all the nerves and cerebellum and the lower parts of the nervous system and the spinal cord, how this nervous system learned to adapt, to compensate, to carry my head, for example, sideways like this. What in the first place in my existence created that adjustment, that adaptation, that way of coping of my nervous system to carry myself like this? So in other words, I think what he suggests here is going back in the development, maybe studying movements from childhood, where I have a chance to fill some gaps, or perhaps I adjusted to gravity, to managing gravity through some injuries, through maybe asymmetrical tasks. I'm a fencer, being on one side. Most of us are right-handed or left-handed dominant, so that will introduce some asymmetries in the body. Therefore, that the whole idea of geometrical symmetry maybe doesn't hold true, because we are not symmetrical features. You look at the person's face and you will see one eye open, the other eye a little closed, nose, maybe translated septum, jaw, maybe, etc., etc. You can see it in the structures of the body. Right lung is bigger, left lung has only 2 lobes, right one has 3. Heart is a little bit to the left side. Huge organ of liver is on the right side of the belly, not on the left, or at least the main mass is substantial on the right side and not on the left. Features like women's breasts, one breast being bigger, of course it pulls, the gravity is pulling. So true symmetry, I think we should abandon this goal of becoming symmetrical. It's much better to have potency to move in any direction. That is a different story. But to be perfectly symmetrical, I gave it up a while ago, and I'm much happier with this idea because I don't think it was feasible to achieve. All right, next time we'll continue with the next paragraph, or maybe a couple of paragraphs depending on how rich they are. Please comment, please let me know your thoughts, your ideas, and till the next time. Thanks.